production team. He also helped to organize a lot of the transportation, the sets. He went into MLA permissions, police permissions for a lot of our shoots to happen, and he was 16 at the time. So he was Saloni also helped with some of the BTS. So you'll see some of the stuff that we put on social media has actually been shot by her, and they both recently got into colleges. A lot of the other kids have also got into some of the colleges now since we made the film. Maybe you can share where you got admission.
I got admission to Nivritti University, and I'm pursuing mass communication and journalism.
I got my admission in Deshbandhu College for BSc Mathematics, and just trying for some more classes.
I was just wondering if any of you have questions for Nivritti. Yeah.
Hi, just no questions, just thank you so much. And it was beautiful and so nice, and it's surreal to see you all here. I mean, not all, but some. So thank you.
I wanted to ask you guys how you feel when you watch the film. I know you all have seen it many times, but since these are your life stories and your POV, how do you feel when you watch the film?
It's hard to describe it in words, but I feel so happy. And recently we had a screening in Delhi, and my parents were also there, my siblings were also there, and they were very happy to see me on that screen, and they're really proud of me after that. So that's, I think, the best feeling ever. And I mean, I've always been that audience, sitting just like you people and watching something in my school or movie theater, like everywhere. But this was the first experience of my life where I'm seeing myself on the screen, and this time I'm not the audience, like obviously like sitting there watching me, but I'm also the cast of the picture. So that was an overwhelming experience for me. And when people see us and when they appreciate, we feel that the message, which we wanted to deliver to the society, I feel that that bit has, we are successful in that matter as well. So, yeah. So I am here. How do I feel when I see myself on screen is definitely one of the words that she described as overwhelming. But apart from that, like she described how her parents were there for the screening. I think I'm glad that my mother is not here, because she would be like, oh my god, chappa nishani se nahi laga. So I'm pretty much okay with it, but I would like to see them, watching them seeing our movie. So yeah, this experience has been great. How do you put in words? You have never wanted to be a part of not a community, but a place where you are the center of attention, you are in front of camera and everybody is there using technical terms, cards. You never know, you do not know what that slate is. So the slate is in front of your eyes, and you do not know what's going on. So it was just a new experience which was fun, and to see these people again.
Jimny's back for the summer holidays.
I have a question for you that I like Jugni stories. I want to ask you that the Jugni story of your life is real or not? And if it is real, then how much relatable you feel when you are watching all of this?
Thank you. That was a great question. I do not have the answer very much. It's going to be very much fiction, non-fiction. Okay. Things were very much kind of fiction, where the passport, you need Aadhaar card, visa. It took me a year. So I was on a deferral. I took a gap year, not a gap year, but I was in the school only. So it was fiction. The legal work was fiction. What else? yeah, my life is not fiction, so yeah. The rest is pretty much real. Yeah.
Ashwin was actually a year of her life.
Yeah, I think that's the quick clarification. Quick clarification to make would be that this has been Jugni's grouse actually with the film, which is that she sees it and says, "You made it look much easier than it was," and it's quite telling, honestly. Just to share a little bit about the process of, it's a question we get asked after every screening of like how much of it is real and how much of it is not, or what is fiction or what is non-fiction, and just to share a little bit about that, I think the way we sort of went about it was when we started working with the children, which is about 3 summers ago, I took a workshop with a bunch of these kids, and you know, we sort of urged them to speak a little bit about what it was, their journey, and what this process of going to these schools had been like. One of the calls that we took was, instead of treating it like a documentary film where we are putting a camera in front of somebody and they're talking about it and reflecting on their experiences, and we're capturing it and essentially telling the story. One of the calls that we took was, what if we were to flip this narrative, and what if we were to put authorship in the hands of students? And the process of doing that also opens up the idea of how do you process your own journey. So we actually, for me, as an enabler, as a sort of, somebody who was documenting this journey, one of the nudges was that try and write about yourself. So you essentially have your own self as the protagonist of your story. And above and beyond that, try to reflect on the journey that you've gone through and borrow from life experiences that you have to be able to tell us the story that you want to say, instead of, so we left that window open to be able to say, you know what, if there is another way you want to be able to say this, please find another way to say it. Say, mention the things that you're comfortable doing. Don't mention the things you're not comfortable doing if you want to, but try and be as authentic as possible, in the sense that whatever reflections you have and whatever sense you've made of your journey is important for us. And for me, the journey was one of learning to listen more than anything else. So very often what ended up happening was, like, some of the kids would come and say, this has happened, but I'm not sure if this is important or not, right? And my job was to be able to say, hey, it doesn't matter if I think it's important or not. So when Sweetie needs, like, what she will wear to the birthday party is a big decision for her to make. It's a big decision for her to make, right? How will Jugni get the signature of the counselor for her Aadhaar card so that she can get a passport, so that she can apply for a visa, so that she can apply for her college, is important. So just sort of wanted to, offer that perspective before putting the pressure on kids to be able to clarify their stance. This was our viewpoint of how we went about it. Where we settled at was that these are stories where we left it upon the students themselves to be able to make sense of what their journey was and present it to us. And essentially they play themselves, and a lot of the incidents that you will see have happened, and a few have not. So just that.
What did the words ready and steady mean to you before you began working on the film? And now that we're on the other side and it's going across places, how do you feel about the words coming together now? Thank you.
So initially we started our writing workshops, and then it was said that we are thinking about the movie name and we should also suggest. So I exactly don't remember where Ready Steady the name came from, but we suggested a lot of name, and like when we were doing it, it was like this is the temporary working stage name of our picture, but eventually it was Ready Steady. And I mean, it just fits, like the entire movie and the title, after watching it, it just fits. We don't question it, why is it Ready Steady, but I think Safdar Rahman and Nivritti were able to tell it more than me about it.
I mean, it was one of those working titles that just stuck, honestly. We struggled a lot I struggle a lot with names. We take it very seriously. But I think the idea was essentially that even when we were sort of trying to provide the framework of what it is that we want to say and where does this story land, right? Like, well, the idea was that essentially we want to tell a story about a bunch of teenagers and how they make sense of their lives in those few moments just before they're sort of getting out of school and just before they're stepping out into the big bad world, as it may. So essentially, it's if one looks at the film like this is the intellectual answer to be able to say that it's about them getting ready and steady, and it's just the moment before go. But also, I think it's a title in English that translates pretty much into every Indian language that exists. Everybody everywhere gets it. We know what ready steady is. It's two words that rhyme. Yeah, and it was just one of those things. It just stuck, and then we just found it to be fun.
Since you've reflected so much at a young age, right? It's not usual. It's a fantastic experience for you. Have you reflected on the act itself? I mean, the RT 12(1)(c), and if you were to do it, what would you change about it? Sorry for the slightly heavy question, but.
Yeah. So I think we were in our school only when we heard about this, and Nivritti introduced us to this. And I still remember that we visited Indus Action, and वहाँ पे मतलब जाके हमने समझा कि what is this, and there were some fellows of like Indus Action who taught us what is this and how it functions. And we also did door-to-door surveys, like we were just in our winter holidays that time, and we really wanted to do some internships just to get experience. And Nivritti really suggested that you guys should definitely do this. So then we had that Indus Action ka form, and then we used to go to this door-to-door survey in groups and fill the forms and explain them what it is. So I feel it's definitely like a great idea, because when we were in schools, we were on private scholarships. We're not through that section, right? And in today's society, it's very important, because this opportunity which we got of private scholarship and all, I think a lot of children who deserve better education, and it's definitely like really good for them to be in those schools. And as this rule mentions that they provide free education, free books, free uniforms. So I think it's a great way for them to get a great level of education, I think. And I don't have any feedback in that terms, but I'll just appreciate this.
Maybe the three of you can talk from your experience in terms of in schools, if you have kids from different backgrounds, what could make it better to make the classroom more inclusive?
I personally will say that I faced not that much level of bullying, but a slight level of bullying. It was there when I was in my 4th grade, And that time, that maturity is like आपको material चीज़ें चाहिए होती है, गाड़ी, पैसा, घर काफ़ी ज़्यादा matter करता है when you are in 4th grade. So when I entered into my classroom, so people were like that, from their looks only, they were like कि businessman के बेटी वहाँ पे आके पढ़ रहे थे. And they were entering into school from their cars and all this. So वो चीज़ दिमाग में आ जाती है. There was a sense of inequality inside me. And I was feeling discriminated. I was not feeling as equal. I was just feeling like यार ये अलग लोग हैं, मैं अलग लोग, क्योंकि appearance, everything is different from those people, And when you fit, but I was just trying to fit there, but I was not able to fit there somehow, because it was a totally different culture for me, totally different environment. So I just feel that if there are more reservations in this case, and there are more admissions through this act, we will build a classroom where, like in the movie we see, people will help each other in that matter. And even people who come from elite homes, they'll also have that understanding that मतलब parents को ये चीज़ उन्हें सिखानी चाहिए कि ऐसा नहीं होता कि अगर बच्चा कोई economically weaker background से आ रहा है तो उससे बात नहीं करो, because I feel some homes में ऐसा बताया जाता है कि if the children is from slum area or from a background which is economically like weaker, कि उनकी आदतें ऐसी होती है कि मतलब तुम बुरे संगति में पड़ जाओगे. But I don't think मतलब of course there are some things upbringing matters a lot, but I still feel that when people from different backgrounds come together, the world is just so amazing, and we just create a very good space for all of the people there.
So I would like to mention one of my story from my school. So my school was one of the newest school to introduce EWS when it started. So my principal, Mr. Ashok Pandey, started teaching students from EWS section and just making the class inclusive so that they can just cope up with other students. And they demanded the students after the class 8th, because during that time the EWS category was only till class 8. So he demanded other students to just study hard and work hard so that you can get more scholarship from our school only. And they scored 84, 85, and they got the scholarship from my school only. There were 3 students came to the principal's room and they were like that we have failed, we didn't did anything. So my principal asked him that how much do you score? He told him that he scored 83.6 and he wanted to score 84 to get the scholarship. But after few years, my principal saw him in ISI, one of the best college, Indian Statistical Institute, pursuing MSc in statistics. So it means a lot that teachers should also support the students to get the good education and prioritized what the students should learn and how do they learn.
My experience with the reservation thing. I think this is my my expertise to talk about reservation, because I do not know if they have been a part of reservation community in terms of economic or the religion one, because I have been the minority one. I'm Muslim. So whenever I remember we had a conversation, like a discussion in the classroom in 7th grade when we had new TFI fellows, and I was the one who asked the question, because it was a time where the people who are from different minority communities get the form to apply for scholarships, and I was the one who got the form. So I was like, ma'am, is it not unfair to the people who are not getting these forms and these money? It's not much, it's 2,500. We are barely able to get the uniforms and that much amount of money. But again, you're getting it from the government, right? So I was the one who asked the question, and I feel that I shouldn't be asking this question. I shouldn't have asked this question at the first place, because why? It's question itself. But me, as Saloni said, she came across some sort of bullying at a very mild level, but it was bullying. We have just normalized the part of bullying so easily that it doesn't feel like it was bullying, right? You never know that little amount of bullying from other people can affect you and for the rest of your life. So yeah, bullying in terms of money, people coming in lavish cars, BMW, Ferrari or whatever. So they're coming, they have never come. But I remember I was in a girls' school and a guy was coming in yellow Ferrari. Oh no, that was not Ferrari, that was Lamborghini, right? And it was all girls' school, so everybody knew what was his intention. So it was fine, okay. Do you want me to be like, oh my god, that is like what? And yeah, but in terms of bullying, yeah, I have faced it. And just not in terms of the income inequality in my school, but also that I was a TFI kid and we were getting good amount of attention from our teachers in terms of good facilities. We had projectors, we would do projects, we would go outside to play games and learn, and other classroom did not have it, which is not fair, because it's not that some students deserve better kind of education. It's basic necessity and it's not a privilege. We deserve to have equal quality of education. So yeah, And the reservation question has always been a question. It is not debatable actually. It has to be like, we have been discriminated for ages now. So it should not be a question that you should get the reservation of 30%. It's not a question. Women have been like, it's discrimination which has gone through history, like historical ages. And we do not need a debate to hold on for these stupid questions that, oh my god, you know what, we need debate. We do not need policies, but we need a debate. We need policies. And we want that policies to be implemented correctly. And yeah, we need that. We do not want debates to be happening around the world. Yeah, definitely for the attention, for the international media attention, so everybody could know it, but we need policies.
And thank you for making it fiction. I'm so glad. It had like moments of joy, and there were like so many moments that really touched me. And I mean, I'll find words to like think and reflect what it meant for me. But as a filmmaker, I wanted to ask you, like listening was something, but also like how much do you hold back when you like give the authorship away? In some sense, like what is that process like?
It's difficult to be able to, explain it, and that's why I guess in the spirit of inclusion, essentially, what you do is that you view the story that you're telling or the art that you're making not from the perspective of the artist, but from the perspective of a collective. For me, that's the only difference, right? Which is why you will see, even when we are giving the credits, it's always the kids have co-written it. It's not the positions of power are such that it's not possible for you to be invisible either. And so it's important to be able to put that out in front, which is why every time somebody says this is a fiction film, I step back. Somebody says it's non-fiction, I step back. Right? I don't feel comfortable about either. But the way that we've sort of moved ahead with it, or at least attempted to, was to be able to A, listen, and B, just make sure at every step of the way that people were comfortable with how they were being represented and if their voices were being heard. Which is why, for me, those were important things. For me, it was important to not tell a boss to not tell a story. Right? It was important to not tell Sweetie that it's not important whether she was wearing makeup or not. For me, it was important to not tell Saloni that you getting on a bike with a boy is not important, right? So that's how I looked at it, which is to be able to search, to be able to listen, and to be able to gather what it is that they're going through and to give the space for them to be able to reflect upon it. At the same time, of course, we're making a film, right? We are going for 10 takes on every shot that we're supposed to get. There is a certain amount of quality. There is a certain level of professionalism. There is a certain level of standard that we want to be able to get to, and we held ourselves to those standards, right? It was a large part of how we went about. For me, the most valuable sort of lessons that we had was that we just held ourselves accountable to professional standards of working, which meant that all our call times were at the same time. We expected students to perform. We expected them to be able to write. We went through drafts and drafts and drafts and drafts, right? When we made, like, one of my favorite, sort of least favorite, but
can I tell the story actually?
Yeah, please do.
I picked up the mic saying that I need to tell the story.
Please do, please do.
Yeah, so I think one of my favorite stories is that, like, when we did the first cut that we were happy-ish with, we decided to send it to Delhi. Safdar lives in Goa, I live in Bombay, and then we sent it to Delhi and we said, hey, the AD of the film, Vikram, can you get the kids together and, get them to watch it and send us a reaction video? We'll start the film with the reaction video, right? And they were really disappointed. with the first cut. They were like, this is not your best work. And they sent back like lengthy WhatsApp messages to Safdar. Particularly Saloni, Saksham and Sweetie, I heard, were like scathing in their feedback. And they were like, so this is good, bhaiya, it was great, but tuck, 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 tuck. This was not good, this, that. And I think Saksham said, oh, the color was interesting. So, yeah, and I think Safdar called me back and he was like, so the kids gave feedback and don't call me for 2 days because I need to process. He's like, why again are we working with teenagers? You know, so yeah, I think they definitely had a stake in all parts of the film.
Yeah, I'm definitely amongst the toughest 48 hours of my life. But I mean, what was interesting was it took me a while to just step back and then think about what it is that they were speaking about and feel proud about the fact that Saksham started a message with saying it's not bad for the first cut. We had worked on it for 8 months. It was good to go from our side, right? Like me and the editor have been on this 12 hours a day doing cut after cut, and Saksham starts a message saying it's not bad for the first cut, but you know, XYZ. And it took me a little while to just step back and read those messages again to be able to remind myself what is important, right? Which is to be able to say, hey, does anybody feel that they're not being, that their stories are not coming out authentically? Or does anybody feel lesser or more for what they are? And for everything else, I should be proud. I should be proud that that space where they're stepping up and saying that. And I must say that a lot of it was very valid. A lot of it just needed us to sort of take 2 steps back and then come back with another cut. So, yeah, I mean, long-winded, anecdote-filled answers to your question. But it was an incredible, I mean, I always say this, but you know, it was in many ways a life-changing sort of process for me, because for a long time I have looked at myself as a filmmaker, as an author, as an artist, as somebody who has a voice, and to just be able to, you know, not take myself so seriously, but you know, to be able to also understand how difficult it is to take a step back, how difficult it is to pass the mic, how difficult it is, and yet at the same time provide a certain amount of, you know, just grounds due to the experience that I may have, where I can sort of just hold the ground to be able to say, hey, these are the not so important parts of this, that we can't do everything. So what are some things that you should be able to focus on so that I can sort of take care of, you know, what lensing we can put, things like that. But yeah, it was an incredible process, and I'll try better to define it.
We also have a 2-minute video queued for the behind the scenes, so that you understand what the kids did behind the scenes.
Can you click on it 2 times?
Action.
Rolling. Take 2.
वो तो सियासी नज़्म बोल रहा है, ये तो नमक सब क्लियर हो जाए। हंसता खेलता बच्चा कंप्लेन कर रहा था और जो इसको सीरियसली नहीं ले रहे, he's actually smashed from
Rolling. Status scene 16, shot 1, take 1. Saloni and her boyfriend find a clear bench behind the tree. Saloni removes the scarf, jacket, gloves and goggles.
You okay?
Yes.
Count किया कितने चाटे पड़े?
Okay, now, one, attention.